Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Robin, or a Hobbit's Reading List. Today I thought I would do a swapping my screen time for reading video because I spend a lot of time on my phone. Just a lot. I watch a lot of YouTube, I play a lot of games, I'm on Tumblr a lot. Like I do a lot of things on my phone, so I have a high screen time. So what I did was Saturday night, I went ahead and grabbed a screenshot of my average hours so that I knew how much I was going to read. And I'm going to read 7 hours and 7 hours and 42 minutes. So great. I have a couple meetings that's going to like break that up a little bit, but I should be able to do it. There's no reason I wouldn't. And I am going to film a wrap-up at the end and tell you how many pages I read, if and how many books I finished, and before I start reading my books, because I'm going to read at least 2, because I have a book that I read daily, just little parts of it, and another like novel that I'm reading. So I'm going to read at least 2. Before I start each one, I will pop on here and tell you about it, and let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so for my first book, I'm going to read my 22 pages of the complete Kama Sutra. This is on my February TBR. It fulfilled the prompt of a classic written by a BIPOC author. It's the only one that I had. I will say I'm not enjoying it. If you've watched any of my vlogs, you'll know that this is quite literally a daily chore, and I'm very much looking forward to being finished with it. It's just not written well. I'm sure the actual Kama Sutra flows a lot better, but this is just like very repetitive with the translation and then the translator's commentary, and it's also like very obviously outdated. This was written, I think, thousands of years ago. Earlier I said hundreds. I'm like, I don't think that's enough. So it's just like overall not a super enjoyable time, but I don't want to take a punishment in March because I'm going on a vacation, and so March is going to be hard enough. So I'm just pushing through. So I'm reading 22 pages a day to finish it by the end of the month. So let's just go ahead and get it over with. And I'm going to, I have my phone set for my timer. I haven't, there we go. I haven't started it yet, but I'll start it here in a second once I know how many pages I have to read. So, because I don't like stopping in the middle of chapters, so I'll read as close to 22 pages as I can get. Most of the time I go over. Yesterday I went under. Alright, so I'm on 309. 309 plus 22 is 331-ish. Should be. I don't know. I'm not good at math. Alright, I'll read 2 chapters. It means that I'll go over by about 6 pages. So, yay. And time is starting now. Okay, I don't know if it's obvious that I just rolled my eyes. The chapter that I'm reading is about, men sleeping with other men's wives. And the part that I just read said that it is not recommended, but if a man thinks that he will die because he hasn't slept with a particular woman, then it's okay. Okay. So I read about 28 pages of the Complete Kama Sutra, so 2 more chapters. Reading those chapters did not change my mind about the book. It's all about sleeping with other men's wives and how to do that, even though they say that it's not something that should be done. So that's confusing. I am at 7 hours and 9 minutes left. So, you know, that didn't take me very long. But I think what I'm going to do is probably change locations. Because I'm not going to stay in my library for the entire time, because I feel like that would be pretty boring to watch. I'm probably going to eat lunch and then switch over to a different book, which I will tell you about, and then, you know, just keep going. So let's go ahead and do that. So I figured while I was waiting for my food, I would tell you about the next book that I'm reading, which is From Dust Aflame by Rebecca Podos. So I'm reading this for my Temple's book club that I run. I read it last summer and I really enjoyed it, and I figured the people in the book club would enjoy it as well. There's a lot of Jewish themes. It deals with like Jewish mysticism as well. And I thought it was a really good time, but because it's been so long since I've read it, I need to reread it so that I can write book club questions. So I'm only about 85 pages in, so I have a lot to read today. Hopefully I should be able to finish it within this next 7 hours. But it's about a girl named Hannah who on her 17th birthday wakes up to having like snake eyes. And she freaks out, understandably. And then the next day she wakes up with like pointed canines like a wolf. And so every day she wakes up with this new animal attribute that she has to hide, and her and her brother eventually try to take matters into their own hands to figure it out, because originally their mother had said that she was going to handle it, and then she like disappears for weeks. So within this is them discovering that their mother is Jewish and their family, who they haven't ever met, is Jewish, and figuring out how that plays into what is happening to Hannah. So it's really fun. I really enjoy it. I definitely recommend it for people who want more about Jewish mythology beyond just like golems. So yeah, I will be reading that a little bit now, and then like I'll probably take a break to eat, and then I will pick it up. So that's the plan. Okay, so I finished a book. I feel like I've been reading all day, which I have. I have 2 hours and 22 minutes left. Okay, this angle is super great, but I'm gonna I'm gonna try to include a little clip, but my camera battery died as I was getting ready to talk about the book that I just finished. So I have 2 hours and 22 minutes left, and I finished reading From Dust Aflame, which means that I read about 335 pages, so decent amount. And since I've already read the book, you know, I'm not gonna really go into a rating. Last time I gave it a 4.5. That still feels accurate. obviously I really enjoy it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be A, rereading it, and B, recommending other people read it. So I think it's really good. I think it's really interesting. I think the story builds well, and it keeps you intrigued by having like these flashbacks to like 1990 with Hannah's mom to provide backstory, and it brings in a lot of, I think I said before, like interesting parts of like Jewish mysticism that, at least for me, isn't super prevalent in my own studies. Just not because I don't want to study it, I really do. I think it's fascinating, but it just doesn't come up that much. So I am going to pause this and figure out what I'm going to read next. I have two choices, I believe. It's either Hot Water by PG Wodehouse or Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So, one second. Okay, so usually what I do is I have a list of the books that I'm reading from my TBR, and I just check them off as I go. And because I suck at making decisions, I just asked Siri to pick one. So that's what I did, and she picked Hot Water by PG Wodehouse. So I'm gonna go ahead and read that. I don't know. It should be good. This fulfills my dad pick prompt in my TBR game, as well as just being a book that I would have had to read anyway, because my dad and I have a podcast together where we talk about PG Wodehouse, and he talks about the novels as a person who has read a lot of PG Wodehouse, and I am a novice. Up until now, I've read 2 things now, each one for the podcast, so this is the next one. So I'm happy that I can get this done so that we can go ahead and start the next episode of the podcast, because one just came out, so we have to get started on that one. So let's wrap this up. Okay, so I read 134 pages of Hot Water. So I'm going to do a tally real quick to add up how many pages I've read, and then I will get back to you. Okay, so I read 517 pages in 7 hours and 42 minutes. I think that's pretty good, quite honestly. To sort of recap, I read 28 pages of the Complete Kama Sutra, which is something that I'm reading just a little bit of every day. I finished reading From Dust to Flame by Rebecca Podos, and I started and got about a little less than halfway through Hot Water by PG Wodehouse. So Hot Water, for those of you who don't know, is one of Wodehouse's standalone novels. He has a lot of series, but this is one of his standalones. It has a big cast of characters. So you have Mr. Gedge, who is an American, who is in France because of his new wife, who is very, like, controlling, and he just wants to go back to California. You have Packy Franklin, who is also American. He played football at Yale, and he is in England because he's engaged to someone who is also very controlling. I'm noticing a theme here with some of the women. And he meets Jane Opal, who is the daughter of a senator, I believe. They're also American. They're in London because they have been invited by Mrs. Gedge, the wife of Mr. Gedge, to where they're staying in France, because Mrs. Gedge wants Mr. Gedge to become the ambassador to France, and thinks that Senator Opal's way to make that happen. He does not like that, but Jane, it has like a secret engagement to Mr. Eggleston, I think? Blair. His first name is Blair, who is portrayed as this, like, this author, but he's not a man of action like Packy is. So, and then you also have, it's a very big cast. You have Soup Sal something. Yeah, I can't remember his last name completely. His first name is Soup. And he's a professional criminal. He usually breaks into safes. And so Packy is now like enlisting Soup to help steal a letter for Jane so that theoretically Jane can marry Blair. But I don't think that's gonna happen. Like, I think the writing is on the wall that Jane and Packy are gonna end up together. But so it's an interesting book. It's funny. What I like about PG Wodehouse is that there are a lot of hijinks involved. So it's pretty entertaining. So yeah, I think that over 500 pages in one day, like, I'm pretty proud of that. I have not broken it down into like how many pages that is per minute or whatever per hour. I think per minute would be a little bit too much. But maybe I'll figure that out and I'll put that like somewhere on the screen. But thank you for watching. You know, I think this was really fun, and I think if I have another day where I don't have a lot of things going on, it would be a fun thing to do again. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks.